What's happening in MMA next few days so that you don't miss some outstanding event which you are going to organizing in MMA. Next one is happening on 17th of November. China plus one strategy. This is a subject you keep hearing them, and come and listen to some of the best experts in this field. Dr. Srinivasan, the visiting research professor from National University of Singapore. Along with him, Frank Felke is also coming, international speaker. Is also National University of Singapore. He's worked in many, including China. So China plus one is very, very important for us, especially for our manufacturing and how we are going to survive, and they are going to really be talking this quite a bit. This is a subject which is discussed widely. I urge upon, especially the entrepreneurs and also the MSMEs, SMEs, do come. It's happening in person on the 17th of November, Monday evening at 6 o'clock, same time. On 18th of November, again, we have an interesting event. It's happening global macroeconomy opportunity for MSME. We are doing it at Atur, our chapter. Then 18th of November, we have another event on converting challenges into opportunities, how global trends can power local business. This we are doing at Namakkal. We have chapters located all over Tamil Nadu. This one is Naka. Then on 26th of November, this is for the students, which we do it every month. It is a read and grow series. We strongly believe you have to be a great leader, you have to be a great reader. That's the context of this, how successful people lead, taking your influence to the next level. This is a subject which we are going to be discussing, and Sangeeta is going to be leading this conversation. Then we also have on the 26th November, digital strategy, business expansion and competitive advantage. We are doing this we are doing at Andhra Chamber of Commerce. Then on 3rd of December, not to be missed event, talk by Arvind Subramaniam, former Chief Economic Advisor. And also we have Subbarao, IAS retired, former Governor of RBI. We have some outstanding panel joining us on 3rd of December. Watch out for that. And again on 12th of December, not to be missed event. This is 7th Arkaswamy Memorial Lecture. We have the privilege of Mr. Amitabh Kant. He was a former Niti Aayog chairman. He's also the Sherpa G20, and he's going to be here. And I think I actually walk miles to listen to Mr. Amitabh Kant. He is the distinguished speaker who has agreed to come and speak to us. Then we also have number of other programs fixed, and I think these are some important programs. I thought I'll tell you so that you can block your diary, come and attend to us on that day. And coming to today's event, we are indeed privileged, and it's a great opportunity for MMA to host this event in MMA, changing fast and slow, how to find your organization's best pathway in the new business paradigm. And we have some outstanding, including the author himself is there to be with us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hand together to welcome one of the outstanding panel we have for this evening. And the author of the book, Mr. Jeroen Tas, and also we have Renuka Ramnath. I think some of the members in MMA know Ms. Renuka Ramnath, founder, MD and CEO of Multiple Alternative Asset Management. She has come and spoken at MMA in one of our conventions. Gopi Kotishwaran is again, Gopi is a co-founder of Disruptive and board member of number of other organizations. And Mr. Surya Narayan is also there. Very warm welcome to each one of us, and also President MMA is also with us this evening. I now request the distinguished speakers for this evening, Jeroen, Renuka, and Gopi, to take their place on the dais. Ladies and gentlemen, a very, very warm round of applause to the distinguished speakers for this evening. Come. Ladies and gentlemen, very, very warm round of applause to welcome our distinguished speakers for this evening. The format of the evening's program, I will request our Honorary Secretary of Managing Director of Cholamandalam MS Insurance to deliver the formal welcome address. Thereafter, we launch the book. Then we'll request Jeroen to speak, and then we'll have a panel discussion. And now I request Mr. Surya Narayanan, is MD of Cholamandalam MS Insurance, and is a chartered accountant and a company secretary, and a graduate, and also associate member of Insurance Institute of India. And he's a part of the MMA Managing Committee. He's been a great source of help to us, and business operations, credit control, financial is his strategy, his strength. I now request Mr. Surya Narayan to deliver the welcome address. Surya.
Thanks, Group Captain. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have the pleasure of extending a very warm welcome to all of you, members of the Management Committee, members of MMA, guests, invitees, and of course, the hundreds who have joined online to attend to this book discussion. This book discussion has been organized by MMA in conjunction with Disruptive AI and KAS. The book itself is Changing Fast and Slow, How to Find Your Organization's Best Pathway in the New Business Paradigm. It's my pleasure to welcome the dignitaries and speakers, Mr. Jeroen Tas, author, tech investor and innovation leader, Ms. Renuka Ramnath, founder, MD and CEO, Multiples Alternate Asset Management, and yes, of course, we know her as a banker. Prior to that, with her long stint in ICICI Bank. And Mr. Gopi Kotishwaran, co-founder, Disruptive AI, board member, South India Chamber of Commerce, and co-founder and partner, Cardiac Wellness Institute. For the benefit of our guests and invitees, it is important to spend some 20-30 seconds about MMA. MMA was established in 1956 and quite shortly, very shortly, it should be entering its 70th year of existence. And what many of you may not be aware is that it is the largest management association in the country with its multiple offices, chapters across the states. And the crowning glory is that it has won the award for 15 consecutive years as the best management association in the country. The latest was 24-25. So that's the credibility that MMA has built over its long 70 years. I'm now moving to the topic itself. See, business organizations undergo a lot of transformation, business transformation, technology transformation, digital transformation. And as a practitioner, where we have been undergoing this transformation over the last 15 to 18 months, I can quite relate to the book, because any such transformation means that you have to adapt to the fast changing business environment and the myriad of opportunities and challenges that it produces together at the same time. So this book actually sort of explores the duality that exists in how you manage the technological innovations and opportunities and sort of merge it well and align and integrate it with the people aspects and the cultural changes that are required in the organization. The kind of business models changes that we need to look at, the work processes that we need to look at, the business process changes that we need to look at, the customer experience aspects. And coming from a financial services industry, I can quite well relate to the typical challenges that exist today, both from the regulatory challenges as well as the business challenges that come about. Incidentally, as many of you may be aware, today the government notified the DPDP rules. And I can well understand the kind of changes that this particular set of rules is going to bring to all of us and the process changes that we need to bring in. I should be candid here that I have not read the book. But then I have taken the trouble of studying the reviews about the book, and I'm now going to read out a few quotes and insights that people have talked about the book. These, I'm sure, will serve as cue sheets and cue notes to the Q&A section towards the end of the session. Some of the points that have been mentioned are the world's most valuable companies don't just adapt to change, they orchestrate it. Transformation is not a one-time project. It unfolds in 3 successive waves of mastering the operational layer, the strategic layer, and the existential layer. By existential layer, what is meant is the core beliefs, culture, and risk attitudes, which are the difficult to change, take a longer time, but then have the most decisive effect. While when these layers are not aligned, even the best strategies fail. When they move in concert, transformation becomes natural. Transformation is not just a destination of technology adoption, but a holistic journey. The pace of change is not uniform. Leaders must recognize and manage asymmetry. Lasting change hinges on organization learning, employee engagement, and robust leadership. So the book, I believe, contains a good element of actionable framework and case studies, and therefore should be in a position to provide immense guidance on how one should set the pace, because the pace for different organizations will never be the same on the path that they adopt for making this transformation. So we will be hearing Mr. Jeroen Tas, author of the book, where he will be sharing his perspectives and individual experiences. My heartfelt thanks to all of you who have assembled here. Wishing you all a great evening of learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Surinayan, for delivering the formal welcome address and also setting some of the reviews, and which is very, very important. It excites the people who are here to listen to some outstanding insights on some of the management thing. And as I said in the format, now I'm going to request the author and the other speakers to formally launch the book and for a photo op. And I must also recognize the presence of Shweta. She's all the way traveled from Bangalore. She heads Emphasis national team from Bangalore. Welcome to you too and your team. It's a pleasure to have along with you, your colleagues. Thereafter, I request the author will be sharing his thoughts on the book, and followed by discussion between Gopi and Renuka, which will be the conversation will be led by Gopi and also moderated by Gopi, and we are going to have a very fascinating evening. And if you have any questions, we have a Mentimeter. There's a QR code. You can just scan and send the questions to us, and all your questions could be related to the subject what we are discussing. All the viewers watching this program, numbers are there. As usual, please share your questions. We'll collect all the questions and put it in the Mentimeter. Now, before I request to formally launch the book, let me have the privilege of introducing the distinguished speakers for this evening. May I have the AV, please.
Mr. Jeroen Tas is an advisor, tech investor, and innovation leader with a distinguished record in digital transformation, from delivering the world's first internet banking solutions at Citi to co-founding Emphasis and driving global health tech innovations at Philips. Mr. Jeroen currently serves on multiple international boards across AI, healthcare, and scientific technology, and advises leading private equity groups and tech ventures worldwide. Mr. Jeroen's debut book, Changing Fast and Slow, was published in 2025. Ms. Renuka Ramnath, founder, MD and CEO of Multiples Alternate Asset Management, is one of India's most respected private equity leaders with over 3 decades of experience, including building major businesses at the ICICI Group and leading ICICI Venture. Since founding Multiples in 2009, Ms. Renuka has managed a $2 billion fund backed by leading global and Indian institutions while supporting entrepreneurs in creating high-impact enterprises. Ms. Renuka has been featured in several prestigious rankings, including Business Today's Most Powerful Women in Business and Forbes Asia Women in the Mix. Mr. Gopi Kotiswaran, co-founder of Disruptive AI and the Cardiac Wellness Institute, is a global business leader with a distinguished career spanning Johnson & Johnson, Philips, and Latent View Analytics, where he served as CEO and stayed one of India's most successful IPOs in 2021. Mr. Gopi currently serves on the boards of SICCI, TiE Chennai and Mint, IIT Madras, and has co-founded multiple ventures in AI and health. An alumnus of IIT Madras, IIM Calcutta, and IMD Switzerland, Mr. Gopi has also completed the Advanced Management program at Harvard Business School.
Then maybe another big round of applause to the distinguished panel for this evening. And now I request the author, others to please step forward, do the honor of launching the book for a photo op. I'll request President MMA and Suri, please join me on stage for a picture along with the authors and the distinguished panel for this evening. Yeah, give it to come back. First one is for you. You can give to the President MMA, then, yeah. Yes. You can give the book to Koti also. Yes? Yes? Yeah, definitely. Yes. You want to be center? Thank you for the privilege. Pleasure. Now I request Mr. Jeroen to. Scotty, you will take it forward from now.
Give a
Yes.
short intro to Jeroen so that people understand. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, we can sit there. Yeah, thanks for joining us. Jeroen's a really good friend. The first time I met him was in 2011 in Amsterdam. So I was the CEO of Philips wearables business. And I think there was a meeting in Amsterdam where all our top 50 leaders of Philips were catching up for our usual leadership kind of things. And then I went there for the meeting as usual, and we were all chatting, and suddenly Jeroen walks into the room and everyone, there's a buzz around, that's the new CIO. He's just come in and he's got entrepreneurial experience, he's got all of that. So I'm like, okay, one day I have to go meet him and ask him for some resources. As luck would have it, he comes straight and sits next to me, right? And I have a version from Jeroen later on saying that Jeroen spent so much time building emphasis here and he knows India really well, and he comes into the room and sees 70% to 80% are Dutch male, tall, white Dutch male. So then he sees one Indian and says, okay, let me go sit next to this guy. And so he comes and sits next to me. And I'm, as a head of a business, as a typical selfish head of a business, I'm always looking for resources. When I see someone from the top 5 of 100,000 employees come next to me, I'm putting my charming hat on to get some additional resources from him. But you got to be polite, so I tell him, Philips is a great company. I've read so much about what you've done in the past. But there are a few things that we probably need to change here in this company. That's what I told him. He turns around and says, Gopi, we've got to change a lot of things here. We have to change this, we have to change that, the architecture, we have to change. So he's like driven. He's a proper entrepreneur at heart coming there. So from then on, I said, this is not Jeroen Tas, this is Arun Das. He's one of us. He's there to shake up the whole place. So obviously we became very good friends since then. And anything that I need on the technology front, I always reach out to Jeroen. He helps a lot. And then more recently, post-COVID, Jeroen and I have co-invested in a company, one of the most exciting digital health companies in the world called Ancora Health. It's based out of the Netherlands. And the two of us met just after COVID. I think we were sitting in their office and we were doing a review of the business. So there was a business presentation, there was much more going on. And Jeroen had just stepped down from CIO strategy role in Philips. So he was sitting there and the technical review happens. When the technical review happens, Jeroen's all in. So he's asking questions. What is this? Why are you doing this? Is this modular? Is this expandable? And the tech guys are directly discussing with Jeroen. And I'm like in total awe. How can somebody who's at the CIO strategy level come down and have this kind of a discussion? And then you see the whiteboarding of the entire data architecture has been done by Jeroen, and the company is implementing what he's put together there, right? I was super impressed, and I was like, I should have a conversation with him later on about this, just to understand how he does this. And then as the meeting gets over, Jeroen leans back to me and says, Gopi, for 10 years, I tried doing this in Philips and nobody listened to me. I told these guys the startup has done it within a few months' time, right? So he loves that. He's at the heart. I always look at it, he's at the heart. He's an entrepreneur. He's an iconoclast. He wants to break rules. He wants to do new things. And if you read the book, you will also see how he thinks about all of this. So in Feb, when I visited him, usually when I visit him, he invites me home. He's got a beautiful, nice house on the canals of Amsterdam. In fact, one side of his house faces one canal, the other side faces the other one, and he's a great host. He makes tea and then sits down and discusses concepts. Well, brilliant guy. So there's no small talk. You really. So he got his book out, gave it to me, and said, "Gopi, I want you to read it and come back with unfiltered feedback. Unfiltered feedback, not the Indian feedback." Right? Dutch feedback. I want. So that's what he told me. So we had a great conversation post that. And my company, Disruptive AI, we focus on helping enterprises, enabling enterprises do AI transformations. That's what we are looking at. And some of the concepts in the books we are applying directly into what I'm doing. And hopefully he's going to help us a little bit more in he spent half a day in our trying to see how the world is changing, how the ecosystems, platforms are evolving. And so I just want to let you know he's one of us. If any of you want to reach out to him, just send him a LinkedIn message and let him know you just interacted with him. He'll come back to you on specifics on the questions, but be prepared. He's an intense guy. There's no light conversation. Any conversation with him is like super intense and so on. And so I just wanted to give a personal intro to him. And we will have, Renuka is a very close friend of Jeroen going back 20, 30 years. And she's flown down from Bombay exactly for this purpose, just to be here for this occasion, and we will have a lot to talk about, but I just wanted to give this special personal intro to Jeroen. He's going to spend a few minutes talking about the concepts in his book. Let me warn you, some of it is pretty heavy, but when he says it, it looks light, but hopefully you have a great time listening to that. Yeah.
Thank you, Gopi. Intense, heavy, oh my God. First, let me thank you for this great opportunity and your wonderful intro. And of course, I would love to thank my really good friends Renuka and Gopi for being good friends, but also to help me shape what I'm going to talk about. So I was just looking at these little videos, intro videos, and you know what it reminded me of? You know, Starship Enterprise on its 5-year mission to explore new worlds and civilizations. Do you know what this is? It's this Star Trek. And I always thought of that as a great mission statement. And then you look at, you know, people always say one of the great mission statements of John F. Kennedy was, we're going to put a man on the moon. And then Elon Musk says, we're going to build a city in space. And I got thinking about it. Why a simple sentence? Why is it so impactful? Because you imagine something. And that's our great gift as humans. We can imagine stuff. We can rationalize stuff, but we can also imagine stuff. We can feel stuff. And let me start with that. Because it's heavy, it's intense, but it's also very foundational. So I want to go back to the basic questions of an organization, of people. And that started me thinking. And you will think, hey, I kind of recognize that title, Changing Fast and Slow. If you do, you read my favorite book. Because indeed, I was very much inspired by Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow. Because what he tells us is that we have this fast brain that senses, that can react quickly, that can make decisions without really spending time thinking about it. But if we would live purely on our fast brain, we would almost be like animals. So God gave us our slow brain. So we can think, we can take distance, we can learn. Because we weren't born knowing what 4 plus 4 is, but, we can teach us. But then he says, be careful, there are biases. And these biases can become traps, so you have to be conscious. And I think a lot that we thought about, we discussed in the book was consciousness. How can I become a conscious leader, make conscious decisions? Well, to be conscious, you have to have a level of understanding. And you have to be able to answer the basic questions. The first question is obviously very simple. Why? Why does my organization exist? What's my role in the world? What's my contribution to the world? And then the second question is who? For whom do I do this? Who are the people that I want to relate to, that I want to provide services to, that I want to partner with? So what is my world? What is my ecosystem? And then the next question is how? How do I do that? The next question is what? What do I provide as a service, as a product? And then the question behind it, what value do I create? And the value is always in the eyes of the beholder. So how do my customers, my users perceive what I do? And then the next question is how? How do I balance the fast and the slow? Do I want to do a fast transaction? Or do I want to build a deep and slow relationship? Do I want to run and chase the prize? Or do I want to step back as well and make sure I'm going in the right direction? Because if you don't know where you're going, you might not get there. That's not my quote, by the way, but it's a funny one. And then the last question is when? So when do you truly prove the value of the relationship? What are those events that your users, your customers, your stakeholders make them sit up and say, these are the people I want to work with. These are the people that I trust. These are the people I care about. Super simple questions. Now, if I go around and talk to ventures and companies, I ask these questions, I get strange answers. Apparently, people haven't thought it through. These are the basics. So, what's the world we're living in? I don't need to tell you because you know. You all know the huge impact that technology has on your lives. You all know that Gen AI is way more powerful than any technology that came before it. It's cognitive technology. We never had that. We had mechanical technology, if then else. If you put something into an LLM, even the builders of an LLM cannot predict the outcome. That's very interesting. We have social media that changed the world, that polarized the world. We're living in a world where geopolitics is super dynamic. We're all connected, where everything is dynamic. So this quote tells you that we're not in an era of change. We're in a change of eras. We're entering where no man has gone before. By the way, that's also from Star Trek. So what we looked at is Rob Teunis, my co-author, who's a McKinsey partner, and I started looking back and say, why is it that we see all this change, but organizations change so slowly? Why is it that some people are super successful and others gradually kind of slip into oblivion? So we started asking these kind of questions, and ultimately we saw 5 major shifts, and we call it a paradigm. A paradigm, I had to go back to my university days and read up on Kuhn, who had the paradigm shift. The paradigm is a way you look at the world, a way that tells you how to connect to other people and make decisions. So a paradigm is essentially maybe an unconscious model that guides the way you live. And we thought that in business you have paradigms as well. And what we could see is a dramatic change in paradigm. So there are 5 shifts that I'm going to walk you through, and I'll try to keep the pace here. But before I do that, I have to talk about complex systems. So when I stepped down from Philips, I started reading a lot on complex system theory. And then I concluded that actually organizations are treated like machines. So we have processes, we have KPIs, we have goals, we have cascaded goals, we have operating plans. But the reality, it's a complex system. And here's the dirty secret. If you study it, it will tell you you cannot control a complex system, but you can influence it. You know, like a city, Chennai, nobody can control Chennai, but you can influence. You can influence the flow, how people are building. You can promote business like you're doing. You can do all of that, but it's influencing. And the first thing that guides you to the goals in a system is the paradigm in which you perceive that system. Now, all complex systems are layered. And every system has a fast layer that senses and responds, like we have a fast brain. And there's a slow layer that stabilizes, that grounds. You know, think of a tree. The leaves of a tree change every year. It bears fruit. The branches may be decennia old. The trunk may be 300-year old. The ecosystem that the tree lives in may be thousands of years old. And trees communicate. Trees communicate through fungi networks. So there's a lot of collaborations in these systems. And I think if we go back to these concepts, we start looking at our organization in a different way. So you already highlighted that we look at an organization like any other system in layers. So the operational layer, where most people live and work, senses and response. You want to make your process better. You want to give better customer service. You want to improve your HR processes. And we do it every day. And if you have the right employees, everybody will have a sense of improvement and maybe even innovation on that layer. But then you have a strategic layer that actually has to make sense of what you do and give it structure. So it shapes. And that's your processes, your systems, your plans, your strategies. That's where most of the leaders will live. They will think about what direction are we taking the company. But the strategic layer can hold your company back. Because if you have to make a big decision and there's like 25 leaders that need to sign off on it and you have to get them together and you have to play the political game, you may be 8 weeks down the line for the first meeting and then a month before it gets implemented. So the strategic layer may have a structure where you have functions and departments that all try to optimize. But here's the trick or the secret of complex systems. If you optimize the parts, the whole is never optimized. And all the big challenges in your organization, even maybe in your family, transcend the single entity, transcend the department, transcend the function. So if you have a supply chain problem that's really nasty, it's rarely just a supply chain problem. If you have a customer acquisition problem, it's rarely just your sales department. So you have to think of it way more holistically, and then you have to look at, does it help me, pick up opportunities? Does it help me resolve the challenges we have? And then there is actually a deeper layer, and I think this is the one that's the one that's mostly unconscious. And that's, what are we truly believing in? How much risk are we willing to take? What are our moral values? How important do we consider the relationships we build? Are we purely transactional? Are we going for quarterly results? Do we have limited moral direction to what we're doing? And people will know, but you won't talk about it. We have these posters with values, but typically values are lived in a different way. People say one thing and they do another thing. So we believe that this existential layer is super important because it determines your culture, it determines on who you are, and that's the reason why I didn't hesitate when Renuka asked me to be associated with her company to say yes, not a second. Because I know that on the existential layer, we have a deep connection. So, here's the first shift, and I'll go quickly, but this is a very profound one. So when I grew up in the Netherlands in the 60s, we had 2 television channels. And I explained it to an Indian friend. He said, yeah, we didn't have much. We had only 2 television. And he said, we had 1 television channel, but no TVs. So we have 2 cars in India, the Ambassador and the Marathi. So yeah, we grew up in scarcity. Now, I want to ask you, how many products can you buy on Amazon today, now, on your phone, here? Make a guess. What? 1 million. 500 million. Now, think of Gen AI. Think of what you can do, the knowledge you can generate, the agents you can build. I wrote a blog recently with my son about the autonomous company. We basically create a whole concept of creating a company that's self-directed. And then a friend of mine who happens to run one of the largest trading companies in the Netherlands said, I already run an autonomous company. I'm on 100 capital markets, and my AI algorithms find little latencies and friction, and we trade on that. And I have 20 PhDs, and that's my company. So we have an abundance of opportunity, but we're constrained in our mind. We don't see the opportunity. And if our starting point is human needs are endless, opportunity is boundless, and we have all the tools we want available, even here in Chennai. We have it. How to use it? So abundance, there's even abundance of capital. I'm pretty sure that if you have a great idea, you have a great team, and you find a unique proposition, that Renuka will help you fund it. So there is abundance, but it comes first in your mind. Second, we are caught up in the past. We have grown up, I have grown up, I got my MBA learning about efficiency, how to optimize a value chain, how to optimize your inventories, how to create best contracts with your suppliers, and how to lock in your customers. Lock in your customers. This is an outdated model. Volkswagen has 21,000 suppliers. They have contracts with each of them. And each contract determines the price, the quality, and the delivery times. So there's a whole machine. And then suddenly somebody says, oh, look at this company in the US with this crazy guy, Elon Musk. He creates these EVs and charging stations. And it's actually, software with a, car enclosure. Oh, yeah. Our people want to buy combustion engine. They love the sound of the engine, the roar of the engine. They love to shift gears. I tell you, that's the existential layer talking. That's not trying to face up to the reality that the new world is emerging on the other side. And you know who saw this? Of course, Elon Musk saw it first. The Chinese. Look at the Chinese automotive ecosystem. It's amazing. So Xiaomi is a phone company that decided to become a car company. And in 2 years, they created a super nice, in 2 years, they created a car. And when they launched it, in 1 hour, they sold 50,000 cars in 1 hour. Why could they do it? Not because they were a great car market. They had no experience in building cars. No, they had an ecosystem. There were all these guys, we could do batteries, we can create the engines. Oh, we can help you with the train. Oh, you need software, we have the AI. You need a self-driving car? We'll make a self-driving. Oh, you want to turn it into a karaoke studio? We'll turn it into a karaoke studio. Oh, you want your car to swim? We'll make it swim. So, a value chain can never compete with a value network. A value chain can never compete with an ecosystem. And there's no single company in the world that can beat an ecosystem. If you try to move a semiconductor factory like the US from Taiwan to Nevada, it's not going to work. It's not working. Read the newspapers. Why is it not working? Because they have all the knowledge. They know how to build the factory. There is no ecosystem. There are no 100,000 people trained on semiconductors. There are no little companies around that provide all the parts and the talent and the tools and what have you. So the ecosystem is the power. Now, the business model that belongs to the value chain is the pipeline. It's a pipeline. You move stuff from one side to the other. It's linear, it's slow, with very little feedback. The platform is the model. Because what does a platform do? It orchestrates. So it starts with the users, First question is, of course, why do I exist? I exist because I want to help creative people get their book out on the market in as wide as possible way as possible. That's the Kindle model. I self-publish my book. I've never met anybody at Amazon. I uploaded the book, and then I found out they cannot print it in India. So I found this Chennai-based company called Notion Print, and they said, okay, you upload it with us, we'll print it for you, and we'll make sure it's on Flipkart and Amazon. Happened. It all happened. So their purpose is to help people like me reach the audience they want. That's the platform. Amazon is the ultimate platform. They are the biggest cloud platform. They're the biggest publishing platform. They're the biggest commerce platform. But you don't need to be Amazon to do a platform, because the picture here is not Amazon. The picture here is John Deere, a 130-year-old pitchfork, heavy machinery company. They thought they were in machinery. Now they think they're into agricultural optimization. So they take samples of the soil, they use satellite and cameras and other sensors to understand the field. They link it with weather data, fertilizer data, optimization software, not provided by them, provided by their partners. And their ultimate goal, their purpose, is to dramatically improve the yield of their customers. So they raised the bar on what their mission is. They created a vision that's compelling even for a 130-year company, not out of Silicon Valley. I don't even know where they are, somewhere in the Midwest. So what I'm trying to say is anybody can do this, but first you have to identify who are the people you want to do it for, how well do you know them, and how well do you understand their needs, and then lift the value of your proposition. Go one level above or two levels above. So the old model was control, as I pointed out. KPIs, process, systems, pretty rigid. And from control, even if you read the big strategy books, they're all about, locking, find these control points, lock in your channels, lock in your assets. I think it's a wrong approach. I think the approach should be not control, but contribution. And I believe the more you contribute, the more powerful you are. Apple contributes to 2 million people running a little business or a big business as an app provider on their platform. So there are 2 million businesses behind the Apple platform. So they contribute to people to fulfill their dreams, launch it on the platform, and make it available anywhere in the world. That's very powerful. Now, if you do this, you have 5 levers you can pull. So the first one is, how do you set direction? Are you very clear on your vision? Do you lay out what you expect people to benefit from when you deliver your product or service? Your mission should be concrete. Where am I going to be in 2, 3, 4, 5 years? How do I get there? What are the signposts on the way? And like Lincoln said, the compass may tell you where the north is, but it doesn't tell you where the swamps are, the roadblocks are. So do you have a strategy that allows you to understand what's going on around you, what changes? If your strategy is, we have a 5-year plan and we're going to stick to it, forget it. Because there's nobody in this room, nor any room, that can tell you what the world looks like in 5 years. Nobody. And anybody who says that, don't trust it. Because we don't know. There's value creation. Now, value creation is something you need to constantly validate. So if people come to me and say, I have this great idea, I have this product, and people are going to love it, I say, okay, prove it to me. How do you validate that people love it and that they will still love it a year from now? So value is driven by the feedback you get from your users. Because you don't know. If somebody who pitches his venture to me comes with a business plan that says, in 5 years, I'm going to do $25.5 million in revenue, I say, you're not. Say, don't you believe in the plan? I say, yeah, I believe in your proposition, but there's just no way you're going to know what you're going to make in 5 years, period. It's just impossible. So value creation is a dynamic process, and it's entirely based on feedback. And that's why I love platforms, I love technology, because it gives you constant feedback. You know what people do, you know what people want, you know how people use it. But then, of course, another lever is how do you vest the power, the decision rights in your company? Does everything need to roll up to the CEO? Or do you say, okay, I organize my organization such that the big challenges can be resolved as closest to the problem as possible? And as I said, a value chain problem cannot be, if it's a real nasty value chain problem, supply chain problem, it cannot be solved by supply chain alone. It has to be solved by sales, marketing, supply chain, manufacturing, partners. So you create these multidisciplinary teams that essentially are targeted to solve problems or to deliver outcomes or to win a new customer. And they're never one discipline, never, ever. Next is you can motivate people. I bet you in all large companies, Philips included, I think most people work at 60% of their potential. Why? Because they're put in a box. They're basically told what to do. And, one time I was traveling and the guide told me, sir, you have to do this and that. And then my wife said, you never tell my husband what to do. You just give him a challenge and he will run. Smart people want a challenge. Smart people need guardrails, but you give them a challenge, you give them a goal, they're going to resolve it. You give them the great team with the expertise that rounds it out, they will solve it. Of course, they need to be smart and motivated people. But you can get way more out of your people. I'm convinced about it. But the more rules, the more process, the more KPIs, the harder it will be. Last one is culture, the most important one. Atmosphere is part of the culture. You can create urgency. I can say, we have to do this. We have to get this product out. You can do that. And many times you have to do it. But you cannot do it for 5 years. There's no organization that has 5 years of urgency. Then there's something completely structurally wrong. So you have to recognize that you have to build in slowness as well in your culture. You have to give people time to think. You have to give people time to reflect. You have to take time out. You have to give the buffers so that you can run when you need to run. So all of these things are stuff you can influence every day because you're a leader. The only thing you need to do is be conscious about it, and be conscious that these 5 levers are not independent. They go synchronized. So if you want to change your organization, it's not a project or 5 projects. It's waves, and it's a rhythm. I'm a surfer. I know about the rhythm of the waves. You catch a wave at the right time, you turn at the right time, it will be such a great feeling. You turn 2 seconds too late, you get crushed. And that's not a nice feeling. I had a couple of times I felt I was drowning. So there is a rhythm to things. You have to find the rhythm. You have to tune into the rhythm of your customers. You have to tune into the rhythm of the ecosystem. Now this sounds a little bit, vague. But once you get it, you will find it will be way more effective than all these projects put together. Because I've been in many situations where people said, oh, I think our issue is the rigor of project management. Oh, we don't communicate enough. I said, you can put the best program manager in the world on it, you can put the best communication team on the world. You don't solving the fundamental problems. You don't get people aligned, they're not motivated, you don't follow the rhythm. So, the ecosystem, I believe, is what's about. In nature, nothing grows with others. There's way, 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 way more collaboration than competition in nature. So, the first question is, with whom do you engage? With whom do you want to engage? What kind of relationship do you, just like with your friends and family, what kind of relationship do you want to have? What value are you intending or contributing to that relationship? First, think about what can you do for somebody else. And if you create value and you're fair, you can monetize it. But you think value first, monetization second. And then what's the role you want to play? Do you want to be an orchestrator? Do you want to play with somebody else who will take the lead? Do you want to be a commodity player? So you identify your role, and then you think through, how is this complex web gonna evolve, and how can I shape my role in it? I haven't seen many people doing strategy this way, to be honest. And I think it's probably the most important thing you can do, to guide your own company. So, how do you become an ecosystem leader? I can guarantee you, if you micromanager, you never become an ecosystem leader. You have to let go. You have to let go. The essence of leadership is co-sense, jointly feel what's going on, what people want, what they need, and co-shape. Find your partners, find the people that you trust, and together shape it. And look at all these emerging possibilities, because we have endless opportunity. There is this abundance of opportunity. So, if you recognize these 5 shifts, you internalize them, then you have to act on them. And the only way to make sense out of change is to plunge in it, move with it, and join the dance. Thank you.
Maybe I'll just stand here and talk, if you don't mind. Yeah. Namaskaram. Real privilege to be here on this beautiful occasion of launch of my very, very dear friend Jeroen's lovely book, and in Chennai, which is my motherland. So very, very happy to be here. First, Jeroen, hearty congratulations to you. It's such a proud privilege for me to be associated with you, with your initiative, and this evening. I I've read this book. Iran sent it to me way before he finalized it. I've read every word of it. It's like a textbook. And every business leader, wherever you are in the hierarchy, I would strongly recommend that you read it and benefit from it, because this is the only way to succeed in the coming years. Iran has beautifully summarized everything that he has written. His book is full of beautiful examples, which I thoroughly enjoyed reading. And to imagine a company like John Deere completely reimagining its business, I would probably give it the name customer centricity. Earlier you thought of you're a machinery manufacturer and you've got to get the most perfect machine. And there was great pride in producing, the perfect machine. But today you have to find the perfect solution for your customer. It's not about the perfect machine and being proud about it. So I would say, like how Gopi shared his personal journey with Iran, I would also like to share my story. And the reason why Iran probably is the perfect author for a book like this, because he is an embodiment of everything that he has written in the book. So my first association with him was way back in 1999. And in 1999, I wanted to start a company. Those days, we never called it SaaS. Later, SaaS became the buzzword. I said that banks like ICICI have the affordability to go and buy whatever software it wants and pay the license fee and deal with it. Whereas many mid-sized banks, particularly in the US, there are so many very small cooperative type banks, cannot afford it. And internet was becoming more and more real. This was 1999. It had become very real in America, and it was becoming quite relevant in India as well. So I went to my boss, Mr. Kamath, and I said, why not build a SaaS company which will put the entire banking software in a box, and we take it to mid-market clients at charge on a pay-per-use basis, right? Which is what later became the SaaS model. Obviously, I cannot do this alone because I don't understand anything of technology, but there is a lot of domain expertise we had in ICICI. So who did we reach out to? Iran and Jerry. Said, hey, shall we partner on this? They jumped on the idea. And then they were small too. So we said, we can't do this alone. We need a very solid partner in the US. We went to TIPCO because the TIPCO platform was sitting in the treasury of every respectable bank in the US. So we said, why not we take their software and make it SaaS appropriate rather than non-SaaS kind of a company. And then we negotiated a small office in TIPCO. We partnered with a very small company called Plexus Technologies to do the UX part of it. And the four of us got together with very, very limited capital and got started to build this product. It was a failed venture. But it really does not matter. It also failed because I had constraints of capital. So Mr. Kamath said, I'll give you X million dollars. Either you make it and raise third-party money or you close it down. The internet bubble burst, stock markets collapsed, venture capitalists were bleeding. So there was nobody who was willing to support any new venture in the 2000, and subsequently we had the September 11 attack in 2001, and the world looked very, very different. It doesn't matter if it was a failed venture, but the innate quality is one of seeing the future as is appropriate for the future, putting together a partnership without worrying about who's bigger. The problem with partnership is if ICICI had said, I'm the biggest guy, Emphasis is a young company, Plexus is even smaller, and TIPCO is another market, we couldn't have got together. Likewise, even TIPCO could have said that I should have a lion's share of this, right? So most of not being able to do the right thing is inhibited, as Iran correctly pointed out, a lot by our own thinking and our mindset, but to equal measure also ego. My biggest lesson in 40 years of doing business is how to keep ego, somewhere in some safety vault and forget about it. Because you will always make wrong decisions if you allow your ego to run ahead of thinking about the opportunity, right? And Aaron embodied everything that he has written in that book. We were 15 years early to the market. SaaS became a buzzword somewhere in 2015, and we were doing this in 1999. Fast forward, we got associated with another company called Quantify, where both of us are on the board, which is completely everything that Aaron has talked about. They think of themselves as a platform company. How do I get into the data and build pipelines into those companies? How do I work with anybody else, whoever may have knowledge, and partnership with some of the best hyperscalers in the world, and so on and so forth. Closer home, it's appropriate for me to talk about one of my favorite investee companies and entrepreneur, Mr. Velen. Mr. Velen, I got introduced to him probably 2013 or so, 2012, 2013, when he came back to India after running a BPO company, he has worked in McKinsey, ran a BPO company. He was brought back because one of the prized assets of the Murugappa Group, Cholamandalam Finance, was really in difficulty. And they were coming out of their partnership with DBS, and they got the family Sion to come back and run this company. I refused to lift myself from Bombay to come to Chennai to meet Velen. I said, look at what is the share price of Chola, what has happened in the last 3 years, who is Velen, and how can we back him and really, make an investment? Please don't waste my time, was my plea to my colleagues. They begged me. They said, Renu, just come. They begged me to save themselves from the embarrassment of taking an appointment with Velen and not showing up. So I came here just for a dinner with Velen, and I was so convinced that he is an entrepreneur born to win because of his humility. He comes from such a large, prestigious family, in a way born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He was eating with his hand. He was talking very normal language despite all his US exposure and all of that. I said, these are ingredients for success. Then he showed tremendous clarity in terms of how he would fix Chola, to every micro detail of what would happen in the branches, what will happen with human productivity, how will technology be used, how businesses which took them into doldrums will be shut down, and how they would refocus in terms of the core business where the group had tremendous knowledge, and so on and so forth. I was a complete convert, and that whole journey was a complete joy for us, both from a returns perspective and also understanding Velen. Along the way, I've been a thought partner for him when he acquired CG Power as well. I've had multiple conversations, although we were not investors. Subsequently, when Velen decided to do his entire EV on commercial vehicles, multiples came forward completely at grassroots stage to invest behind him. If we unravel the DNA of Velen, everything that Aaron has written in his book will kind of evidence itself in terms of all the paradigm shifts. When Aaron talks about the 3 layers, right? Velen can fix many things at the operating layer. Even fixing it at the strategic layer is very, very tough because the group is a very, very old group with very set beliefs about what it can do and it cannot do. And then fixing the existential layer. Why should I be here, right? Why should I go out and build an electric vehicle company? That's not who I am at all, right? But what he has taken the essence of the group, that I am about innovation. I am an engineering company. I can attract the best engineering talent. I can produce the best product. And now I have to operate in an ecosystem. So when we were looking at commercial vehicles, all of you will know that the fundamental thing more than the vehicle is financing. Without financing, nobody is going to buy. Nobody wants to even look at your product if you don't have a loan attached to it. Who's going to finance an electric vehicle? Who's going to take a bet on it? Who's going to determine the life of it? Who's going to determine the value of the battery at the end of it? There's so many questions. So partnering with financiers, right? How do you bring your credibility and the forward thinking? It's a beautiful example. So what I did was I read Jeroen's book and I looked at all of our investments. By definition, private equity firms pick the best entrepreneurs. What Jeroen has done in his book is given a lot of language on why these entrepreneurs succeed, right? We invested in Delivery when Delivery was a 150 crore company. We valued it at $100 million and today it is worth $3.5 billion. We have been with them in that journey. He had the abundance mindset. He had the ecosystem mindset. So Jeroen's book has given me the language for why many of our companies have succeeded. Another example, PVR Satyam. All of you will be familiar with Satyam, which merged with PVR, right? Here the promoter, Mr. Ajay Bijli, he said that it's not about control, it's not about my ownership. I have to deliver to the market what the market needs. So the investors want diversification of income. The patrons want diversity of movies and outstanding SPH, the food and beverages in the cinema. So again, when I look at the DNA of Ajay, why he is as successful as he is today, PVR Inox is worth about 16,000 crores. I invested in PVR in 2002, valuing the company at 100 crores. And we invested about 45 crores to take 48% stake in that company at that time, some primary, secondary, and I've stayed with the company for this long. It has never been about my company, my stake. It is about how do I make this company successful, relevant to the patrons, relevant to the shareholders. Every other company in the industry in the same period have exited at 400 crores to 600 crore market cap, Fun Cinemas. Cinemax, which we bought. Satyam itself, we bought for about 800-900 crores. Mr. Anil Ambani got into the business and had to vacate the business for an insignificant amount. Whereas this company went on to become the giant company in this industry. In future, these disruptions will happen at a much, much more faster pace. Therefore, if you are sleeping and if you are allowing your existential layer to dominate you, then you will become extinct much faster. And the destruction of value for those companies will be very, very high. So I think Jeroen's book serves not just as an excellent guide, but also as an alarm bell, as a book that drives home the point of agility to every business leader. And the other thing I would urge, which is also brought out beautifully in his book, is all the sensing happens at the grassroots level. When I joined Workforce way back in mid-80s, all the sensing happened at the top. All of us looked up to our chairman, our MD, to say, hey, what should the company do? And therefore, what you will be doing, right? Mr. Kamath will decide that the company should become a retail company, and then he would say, Renu, go and do this, right? And I would just try to do a best job of my job. Today, in every company, I insist, what is the sensing you have from the ground? It is the people who are closest to the customer who pick up the changes and who also pick up signals as to why our company could become extinct. So it's important that every company understands and fixes how to work with the three layers. But even more important to listen to the people at the grassroots. What he said beautifully in terms of co-sensing and co-envisioning the company is an absolute must for survival. I wish the book the very best, Jeroen. You richly deserve it. And I wish everyone here as well excellent reading and great success in your career. Thank you.
Sure. No, thank you. Yeah, we'll have the question. Right. Super. Super. Thank you very much, Renuka. Really appreciate it. Now I can see. I thought I'd read the book in detail, but you clearly read it and applied it to all your portfolio companies, and you see how. So, yeah. So the key in this, I think, is Jeroen is a practitioner, right? He's not an academician. He's not a professor somewhere, but he's applied his entire business experience and tried to convert it into frameworks such that we practitioners can apply it in our companies and take it forward. So that's the special part of this. And there are a lot of examples that he has quoted in the book, and which are excellent. But it's better for me to hear the examples that Renuka quoted, because they are real life examples where she has looked at the concepts from the book and seen how the founder. So it's not easy to identify a winning proposition early, right? And that's been done really well. But I do know that we have a set of questions that have come up. So it would be great if we could. Okay. I'll just read the question. What leadership behaviors help teams stay agile when operations move faster than strategy? How can leaders ensure alignment during rapid operational shifts? Bindu has asked the question.
Yeah, I'll have a go at it. You know, operations can never move faster than strategy, then your strategy is no good. Your strategy should be ahead of operations. So, but operations give you a lot of signals. You know, you were talking about sensing and signals, and I believe in that. You know, I'm a data guy at heart, and I believe the data tell you a lot of stories that you need to react on. So you can see in your operational data not only what's happening, but if you're smart, you can only see what's going to happen. And you know, during the other session, I talked about my son's company, and my son runs a SaaS business for restaurants, and he basically took 3 years of operational, tiny data, very granular, and then he split it in two randomly. So he split customers in two, and then he asked Claude Code, "Can you create a predictive algorithm?" And then, you know, something came out, was okay. Then he said, well, what if you add the weather data? Because it influences, you know, the footfall in restaurants. And they said, next, can you find visitor data? You know, because people visit Amsterdam and they go to restaurants. And then finally he said, if I give you the reservations for the next 5 days, how will that impact the algorithm? So the algorithm finally got to around 90% accuracy, which is pretty cool. And he asked Claude, can you create an app or a web page so that, you know, restaurant owner can play with this and look at his forecasts, and then can you ask these restaurants what they would do if they have this data. So, and then he said, okay, I gave it to 10 customers, got their feedback, so feedback. And then he asked me, how long do you think it took me? I said, well, it sounds like 4 to 6 week kind of effort. He said, it was 4 to 6 hours. And this is not production code, but it's an experiment that senses what customers need. And it gives me insight in their operations. So what I'm trying to say, your operation gives you signals, allows you even to predict things. And your strategy should be that you do that. So that always when something happens in your operations, you not only be alerted, but you could anticipate it. You're conscious of what could happen. And there's always stuff you weren't conscious about, but you can zoom in on that. And then you have your multidisciplinary teams that fix these operational issues. And that should be your strategy.
Yeah, let me read the next question. And Captain, just stop us when we exceed the time limit because I've spent the last couple of days with Jeroen. He can talk about one topic for 3 hours because he's done enough research on that. So what fundamental mindset change should traditional companies make to start thinking in platforms instead of pipelines? This is Karunan asking the question.
Yeah, I think that's what the book is about, because the pipeline comes with a control mindset. It comes with what I call zero-sum mindset, because you always say, okay, I have to win market share at the expense of somebody else. I have to lock in the better conditions of my contract with suppliers. So if I win $1, my supplier loses $1. If I get a better price with my customer, I win. My customer loses. And that's the wrong mindset. That's a mindset of, I need to conquer. It's not the mindset of, how can we create win-win? And I ran a couple of negotiation workshops, and I said the key to the right engagement is the asymmetric nature of value, because the way you value things might be different than I, and if we can find something that gives value to me and in another area to you, then we have a deal that may last. And if we can build up this win-win over time, we build strong and lasting relationships. And it's not just acquiring a customer, it's really building out a relation. I think you talked about it.
No, I think that the traditional mindset, pardon me, is to think of our competitors as our enemies. Competitors are not enemies. We are competing, that's all. There are areas in which we can collaborate. There are areas in which we can partner. There are things that we can do together, and there are things that we will never do together. Right? So I think that's the biggest mindset change that is required. When I started raising money for ICICI Venture from banks who would compete with ICICI, 2 years of my breath was wasted in just telling them, I run a different business of ICICI Bank, and I manage your money in fiduciary capacity. The biggest question that every other competitor of ICICI had was, will Renuka come and mop up all this money and give it to ICICI Bank to solve for their NPA problem? How will I show returns? I'm in a completely different business. And fast forward 8 years, those very banks who made me sweat it out when I was in ICICI, asking them for money to manage, called me. When I left ICICI and I was a complete nobody, the very next day, this very same bank chairman called me and said, will you manage our money? So,
Wow.
so I think we should really think about, I compete here, I collaborate here, nobody is my enemy. And, you know, and Jeroen has also beautifully talked about the dynamic nature of market, right, and businesses. So just appreciating that will help.
So the big platform guys, they all collaborate. You know, Google has $1 billion, you know, what is it, $10 billion relationship with Apple. Salesforce, $250 billion market cap, runs on Oracle. All these guys have already figured out long ago where to compete and where to collaborate, and there's more collaboration than competition. And they're way ahead, and these are the most valuable companies in the world. You know, NVIDIA takes a big stake in OpenAI, and you see all these guys, they're getting together because they see that together we can be super powerful. Now, they're also dangerous. That's another story we don't talk about.
For another day.
That's for another day.
No, I just want to build on the point that Jeroen made, which was his son's company, when he asked, he's a tech guy, right? So when they asked him, how long did you take? He says 6 to 8 weeks, and the guy's done it in 4 hours. And the first thing that reminds me, my disruptive AI team is here, somewhere here. Sometimes I make the mistake of telling these chaps, can I have it by end of day on Monday? and then 5 minutes later, they give it to me. So I feel really embarrassed, but I spent some time understanding. So tell me, what did you do in these 5 minutes? In my mind, I'm thinking I'm going to get some response in a week's time or 2 weeks' time, and these guys are doing it in such a fractional time. And they're using tools and technologies which I'm learning about, right? Because that's the way to enable it, and the sensing has to be done at the ground level. I mean, thanks a lot. This is like fabulous. I'm probably going to take one more question. Based on your global tech and PE experience, can India leapfrog into platform ecosystems? What key obstacles need to be addressed? Manasa has asked the question.
I think this is an excellent question. This is also a question we discussed in the past couple of days. So just here in Tamil Nadu, there are 12,000 startup ventures that are being supported. And basically what I said, that's way too much fragmentation, because it's going to be hard for all of them to find their customers, to build a solid product. But what you can do is let them work together. And again, I go back to a very simple model that we all know. Apple created a platform with software development kits, with API and test tools. And that allows 2 million startups, companies, to create their own product. And they didn't need a channel because Apple gave them the channel. They didn't need the platform because Apple gave them the platform to run on. So I think that's the concept you got to embrace. You got to help these 12,000 startups by giving them an infrastructure, a platform that they can plug into, that they can bundle, and that they can fine-tune their role in the ecosystem. Because in the beginning, you don't know. But then as you become part of the platform, you'll see people come to you for this, but not for this. So you drop this and you focus on this. And this dynamic nature will automatically play out. Complex systems also tend to be self-regulating, but you have to, give it the environment. So yes, the answer is yes, and I think there are a bunch of obstacles, but they're only in our head.
One more question.
Last one.
Is that okay? Then I'll rush it. What do core agility and ecosystem mean in the context of from project to waves paradigm mentioned?
Okay. So core is literally the core, is what you believe in, but it's also your core capabilities. If you're a hardware company, it's very hard to become a software company, but it doesn't mean that you ignore software. You can become a hardware company that puts more and more of the functionality in the software, etc. So core is also how you see your role in the world. Now, if you're doing a transformation, you have to stay true to your core. And you have to identify what am I really good at, what am I comfortable with, where can I expose my superpowers that makes me unique. And then you'll find out it's not I do a project in HR or I roll out this system or I train people on Gen AI and I train people on agile methodology. Because then you make it discrete. You have to see, you have to experience stuff. You can say, we're all going on an agile training, and then next week, after we've done the training, we're going to work agile. That's not how it works. You got to ease into it. You got to play with it. You got to experience it. You have to find out that you can be, as an R&D or IT department, you can be agile, but if sales and marketing and supply chain and all the other guys are not, if legal doesn't understand it, forget it. You just get frustrated. So you all got to ride the same wave. And you got to feel it. And you got to go through it in steps. And that's the agile aspect of it. So anybody who says, okay, we're going to change, we're going to be agile and we're going to run this big enterprise-wide program, and we're first going to do it in Holland, then in Germany, and then we take it to India, and you have to do the 20 steps to do it, and everybody needs to sign off and get us. Forget it, it's not going to work. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't structure it, but you structure it in a fluid way. And that's why waves and fluidity are attributes of the same thing.
And the final question, but you have to sense it. That's what you're saying. Renuka, this is for you. When evaluating companies for investment, what indicators convince you that a business is culturally ready for transformation rather than just financially attractive? That's from Prakash.
So not almost, every of our investment is a transformative investment. If there is no transformation, there is no value creation. Because the fundamental thing about our business is an entrepreneur is valuing his current business and making an investment case for the future and expecting us to make a bet on that future. And if the future plays out as attractively as it is being portrayed, then we make the returns that we anticipated. So everything of the current business is completely valued. And I always tell myself and my team that time and again, we only live to see how the projections around the current business never comes out fulfilled. It is always underperformed. But the future can be a lot brighter than what you have imagined, what I call as the option value in any investment. And how do we judge it? I think the starting point for an entrepreneur, whether he can make that transformation, is how vivid is that imagination? To what detail has that transformation been thought through by the entrepreneur and articulated? And what steps have been taken by him to actually put through this transformation that he is presenting to a potential investor like us? And there is, of course, very, very elaborate evaluation that we go through. Each of our deals can take anywhere from 6 to 9 months to consummate. Because of the intensity of our business, we take 30-40% stake, if not 100% stake in companies. So it's a very, very high involved business. But if I were to put it in simple sentence, I would say it is the vivid imagination backed by what steps have been taken. Just to take the earlier question and also answer this question through one example, we invested in a company called NQ, which makes creams, topicals. Manufacturing Cetaphil for the original, the innovator is one of its big business. They have massive production lines in Goa to serve the needs of almost every derma company in the world. Think of a derma company, Galderma, Pfizer, GSK, what have you, they manufacture topicals for them. It's obviously a very competitive business, very thin margins, but he had a fantastic track record in terms of making very decent return on equity in that business. But our investment thesis was to transform this company from being a contract manufacturer into a company which would have a bunch of products in its own name. So in the pharma industry, there's ANDA, that is abbreviated New Drug Application. So it's an old chemical entity, but you modify it once it falls off patent, you create your own patent there and manufacture, and you keep the entire margin. This was our bet. Soon after we invested in this company, the contract manufacturing businesses took a huge hit. And the entrepreneur was so nervous to have his first meeting with us because his expectation was, if your core has shaken so much, there is the question of you building new things, right? Forget about your R&D. Don't spend my money. Just focus on contract manufacturing. Get your house in order before you can do anything. That's what most investors would have done. But as Jeroen said, he and I are partners in business because of our mindsets, right? We said nothing doing. You raise 300 crores from us for R&D. That money is lockboxed in the bank. Go spend it. Carry out your dream. And this entrepreneur, even if I send him a simple WhatsApp message today saying, hey, hi Mehul, how are you? There will be one credential message from, oh Renuka, I woke up thinking I always pray for you. I am everything today thanks to what you have done. because of how deeply we have touched him in not shrinking his R&D budget. And he is so proud to say that he is the only company in the pharma industry probably whose investment in R&D was more than the profits he made, because every rupee that he raised from us was also invested. And when he exited the company, his EBITDA was higher than the turnover at which we invested in the company. So that's the beauty of managing your core, where you bring solid stability in your business, including values and other things that Jeroen has spoken about in his book, and create the necessary financial capital, human capital, and other strength. He has taken his products to the US, so how do you build all your partnership ecosystem to get out of your core and start experimenting to become an altogether transformed company? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jan. What a fascinating evening, ladies and gentlemen, and especially Renuka. It's a master class. Really very inspiring and correlating with the book it's saying. Ladies and gentlemen, make a big round of applause for the distinguished panel this evening, fascinating. I'll request Suri to please join me on stage. We are going to give you more books published by MMA, and we also use Notion. Naveen is our member. So Notion Printers is the one who published our MMA book. We would like to give, we also use technology. At the end of the, yes, there is a QR code. You can scan the QR code, watch the entire video of that particular article. Please step forward.
Thank you so much. See you in 1 week.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Till we meet again. Bye bye. Good